Welcome to the Grow Podcast. I'm Wendy Jo, and this is Ashley. Hey, Ashley. Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I cannot wait to talk about human design. That's the name of it, correct?
Yes. Life-changing for sure. I got mine read probably, I think been about 3 months now.
Okay.
And I still, and not that you should learn it and then learn it really quickly and then it be done with it. But every time I take a look at my own chart, I learn something new. And so, yes, and it's like it's a thing that unfolds in real time. And I have some sort of foundational basis to base it off of, which is really interesting. But
that's cool. I saw you posting on social media different words like generator. I can't remember all of them, but it seemed really provocative. So I asked you about it just yesterday. I said, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're referring to. And you told me human design and to look it up and do my chart. So this is, for people listening or watching, what exactly is human design?
It is basically a combination of different sciences and spirituality that comes together and maps out your entire human design, like who you are, what you are. And it even goes as deep as the genetic level.
Oh.
So, yeah. And so there are multiple layers, like categories that they put you in, and everybody is in different versions of the categories. And so the words that you see are like the umbrella, like top umbrella categories. So generator or manifesting generator, those are like the main category. And then there's a profile type, which is like the second layer kind of. And then there's way more that you can dig into as you start to understand the chart itself. And that's why I was like, it's always something to learn.
Well, I thought it was very cool that it's based in science and spirituality, which is kind of where we are in our journeys, bringing together, healthcare and spirituality, science and spirituality, and seeing the parallels, right? So that really intrigued me. And then they kind of ask information like as if it was an astrological chart, what was the time of your birth, the day, the year, just your information basically. So that was kind of cool. And I was trying to figure out why that was necessary so much, but maybe you can explain that a little bit more.
Well, it's because astrology does play a part in it. So that's one of the sciences that they consider. So to me, it's like a mixture of your natal chart. You know what a natal chart is? Like a combination of your natal chart, which goes off of your date of birth and the time and the sky at the moment. But then it infuses all these sciences to overlap it in order to make it a map, as opposed to, I don't know how to describe how it's different, but, and I wanted to say it was like more like an assumption when you look at a natal chart, where this is like more like direction.
Okay, gotcha. So you did this a few months ago, and did you just kind of stumble upon it? Did someone recommend it to you?
Somebody offered it to me as a service, as a gift. And she did, when I heard it, it was almost like she knew me, right? And I was like, wait, how did you know this stuff? Because I know this about me. I'm a very self-aware person. And so to hear somebody like reiterate some of the things that I already knew about myself that, I kind of thought was weird or kind of crazy that I behave this way, or I think this way, or I thought that, where she was like, no, that's how you've been designed. That's what you're supposed to do. So an example is I'm a heretic subconsciously in my subconscious profile, and I go against the grain on everything.
Okay. Yeah. Everything.
Everything.
You question everything for sure. I know that about you. And I also feel like you have really strong boundaries and you know who you are. And, you're not going to let anything kind of get by. That's kind of, I don't know how else to describe that. Is that part of it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's partial. That's my heretic, and it lives subconscious for me. And so I wasn't always aware of my need to want to question everything. I just asked questions because I thought it was appropriate to ask a question because I was unsure of I wasn't clear,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was like I was operating in this space where I was constantly questioning things and resisting societal norms. And really, I can actually use that and harness that in a way where if I pay attention to my aura type, it's like, oh, okay, well, if your strategy is to wait for the invitation, I don't need to question everything every time. Just because I see a pink elephant in a room doesn't mean I need to point to it for everybody to see because they don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's true. So is that your primary? So I don't know all the terminology. Um, you didn't say that that was your primary force,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So let me back up and explain like some of the details, I guess.
Okay.
Uh, so your aura type, I know you're familiar with aura, like the
Mm-hmm.
energetic boundary around you that it projects out from your physical body. It has its own anatomy. Um, there are different types of aura, and that's what that type is referring to. So I'm a projector type. I think you are a manifester type, manifesting generator. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so your aura is very like a hug, like yours is like come be with me and I'll envelop you and make sure, like, it's a very nurturing type of aura where people will be just attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
My aura is very projecting where people feel offended by my presence.
Oh goodness. Really?
Yes. Yes. Depending, it depends on the person, it depends on where they are, it depends, if there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
dependencies, but very much where I feel like a benign question is just a benign question, somebody can easily feel violated by that question.
It's funny as you're talking. I can relate to that for myself. People are definitely attracted to me and wanting that nurturing, and that's been lifelong, even when I was a little girl. But I am really attracted more to people like you,
Oh,
who openly question and can seem to be offending to others. For some reason, I'm attracted to that. I work well with that type of person. I've had partner after partner that was that type of person.
yeah.
And I can get hurt sometimes because they are like that, but it's the very thing that I love about them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's this is my conundrum in life. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Is they love me when they first meet me, but then over time, it's like, oh, but I've had enough of you.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's too much. It just and 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 it serves a purpose, right? So both of us together make a beautiful team, right? Where
Right.
like you have this energy, this life force energy that's able to move things forward, and like you can manifest, right? Where I have this projecting, highly intense projecting aura that is like a sprinter, where I come with a big idea and boom, make it bigger, and then I'm like, I need to sit down for a second, you
Right.
know
Mm-hmm.
like. And so, where you can do the long, long race or whatever it's called, right? Like, so you're gonna be able to take it the entire mile because you just have the energy to do it. And so I think it's just an assumption of mine, but I think that, while it's offensive to some because maybe they haven't done the inner work to be able to
Mm-hmm.
tolerate that, for others it's welcomed. And
Right.
so what my strategy is to wait for people like you to say, hey, Ash, I want you to be with me, I want you to do this thing with me, I want your insight, I want your, questions or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, we're going to talk more about this when we come back. Hey there, Wendy Jo with the Grow podcast. So, we're talking about human design today. And I have to say, when Ashley first sent me the link for human design, I was a little skeptical. It's going to tell me about my aura and who I am based on personal information I had to enter, my birth date, place of birth, and time of birth. And then it generates it generates a chart for you. And I have to say, I was blown away, because as I read through the chart, it really resonated with who I know myself to be, and sort of validated how I deal with the world and what I think I am here for, based on my own spiritual journey and learning about myself. And so I am a generator life force here to uplift the energy of the world. And we're back. We're talking about human design today. And in the first segment, we were kind of talking about our own profiles after, filling out the information in the human design website. Or I guess, is it an app or a website? I'm not sure.
Website. And there's a multiple websites. The one that I sent you is myhumandesign.com. That's the one I'm familiar with. So,
okay. So people gain all this information and insight about themselves. Where do you go from there with this information? How can you use it for healing as a tool,
Yeah, I feel like, in my opinion, I think it's a tool for shadow work. It gives you insight. And so I feel like when we do our own research and digging, it's like, oh, that's interesting, and we kind of put it to the side. But to have somebody to almost mirror it back to you so you can see it and get insight and direction with it, I think that actually is where the most value comes in at. Because I've worked with a lot of people so far over the past couple of months that I would sit down with them and they say, oh, I did all this research, I know all this stuff about me, but it's not until like I start to engage in some conversation and tie it into, personal experiences where they're like, oh, like I didn't even realize that, or I see that trend, or I see that pattern. But I think that even if it's not based in human design and you just got somebody who intuitively can do shadow work in that way, I think that is necessary for everyone to explore that, that version of themselves that they probably suppressed because society says they're not supposed to act this way.
Right. There's so many reasons why it's suppressed, sometimes it's, memories that they haven't dealt with yet. They haven't looked at from an adult perspective. Sometimes it's, I don't know who I am because all these things have happened to me and my shadow self took the brunt of it. So I don't even know where I've been and who I am, But the cool thing about this, for me anyway, I've done so much work on myself. There's always more to do. but it was such a confirmation. Like, it was kind of creepy almost because I read it and I was like, I mean, it even said, like, where are you most comfortable? And it's like, out in the community. I think they use the word marketplace or whatever. Yeah, I love being out in the community, connecting with people. I know that part of my gifts, are my voice, and that nurturing innately that I have. They just feel good. They feel better. And that makes me feel happy, Yeah. So it was like, wow, this website gets me. It's so weird. And then to use the word generator is very interesting because, that's like, full of energy going outward, like you're generating this energy. It's how I took it anyway. And I don't know what all the other categories are, except for heretic, because you explained that in the first segment. But are there several different categories?
Yeah, so I just looked at yours. Your profile is a 6-2. I don't remember exactly what the name of it is, but in the part where the 6 is, that's where your conscious profile is. That's the one that you're probably most familiar with. And in the 2 section is where your subconscious profile is, that you may, unless you do a lot of shadow work, so you may be familiar because I know you have. that's where that kind of pushes you in a direction you don't even realize it. And so that's actually the second layer of pulling the generator aspect of you together with that profile is extremely exciting to understand.
So I just filled it out and got my, report. I didn't go any further with it. There are videos that you can watch, I guess, for each section to kind of give you more information. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you can find most like insights from people on YouTube and,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of information on human design on the internet right now. I think the biggest value is when you begin to dig into your own profile. This is what it was. You mentioned the marketplace and your environment. So part of the reason why I did all of this to my office was because my environment was caves. And so, yes, so very, very close spaces that are very intentionally put together that makes me feel safe, that makes me feel cozy. And so there's another half of this room back here that literally I don't even have access to. Like my chair literally can touch this curtain here. And it has been the best transformation for my space ever.
Okay. So you learned that by doing the human design profile, what your environment needed to be like.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And I feel, and to your point earlier about, how this chart is like, oh, it gets you. Like there is a sense of validation where in all your quirkiness, right? We all have our own quirkiness about us, right? And so as soon as you start to see some of these things pop up, it's like, oh yeah, I've been dealing with this for my entire life.
Right.
Golly, like no one, every time I had a heartbreak or every time a friend or a family got upset with me, it was because of this thing that it spoke to that you're like, wait a minute. So that's
Right.
part of my design the entire time. And some of the turmoil that we experience in our lifetime is related to the fact that we can't figure out what the trend is because we can't figure out the problem in order to fix the trend.
Mm. So by doing this, you kind of get this framework of this is who I am. I would guess most of the time people feel validation. Maybe some people might, like you said, you had someone who was like, I don't relate to this. This isn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure why that would happen unless perhaps they don't know themselves or I don't know why that would happen. Why do you think?
I feel like trauma changes people significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of it is our society makes us a certain way. And so for the most part,
Conditioning, even at home, your parents may or may not embrace who you really are and condition you to be
totally
another
true.
way. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that showed up for me in how I worked. So I was taught that if you work hard, if you do a lot of work, if you're constantly doing something, then you're productive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're productive, then you're successful, right?
Me too.
Yeah, and everybody's taught that. But as a generator for you, that may work, right? You may have capacity to do that. Whereas me, I constantly will burn myself out. Constantly.
Right. It's not for everyone. And that kind of idea, I think, came, in the boomer generation. I mean, I'm like the last year of the boomers, right? My parents were, definitely, in that. I don't know what that generation is called.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but that group of people was taught, you work hard, you do well in school, you go to, you're going to do better than we did. Just keep working. Right? And it isn't really for everyone. And people don't like to hear that, but it's true. Some people will not fit into that framework, will not feel good doing it, will not want to conform, right? And I have some of that. So I don't know if there's a little bit of heretic somewhere in there. I definitely have some of that, but some of it is from trauma. I have this innate, fear of authority that pisses me off. frankly. But it's from the trauma that I suffered, as a child. So I don't know where that comes from, if that's really part of my design or if that was trauma based. I don't know.
So I'm looking at it right now. So your 6 2, so the 6 in your conscious is the role model, and then your 2 in your subconscious is the hermit.
Oh.
So as the role model, like you do have this like sage kind of wisdom that you're able to share with people, which to me that matches your voice, like being able to communicate with people. And the hermit piece of it is like being very introspective, which also to me resonates with who I know you to be.
Mm-hmm.
Where if, for example, when you were young, you wanted to like use your life force energy to be introspective, right? Like you wanted to spend time with yourself to do whatever it is that you felt like you needed to do with yourself. And maybe mom was like, no, you need to be out here playing with the kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, this is how I want to spend my energy, mom. And so maybe like it would show up in a sense where like she would pull you away from yourself and
Mm.
teach you how not to do that. But I don't think that's true for you because look at you now, you know? But
There was some of that actually. It's very interesting because this information, I feel like as a healer in the past when I did healing work, um, pulling getting that information was achieved intuitively and through meditation and through, but this kind of already has it packaged. It's very interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
And we'll be right back.
Have you been seeking alignment with your true authentic self? Human design has been so life-changing. Only been a few months since I discovered my human design and I've made so many changes. I'm a projector aura type. I am also a 3-5 profile. And just those descriptions are super basic, but they tell you so much about yourself. So much so that I can actually conduct holistic life coaching sessions that are very specific and on target. I did a session one day with someone, and the very next day, they got exactly what they were asking for, just based off of operating in their human design. Alignment matters.
Hey there, Wendy Jo, co-host of the Grow podcast. Also, Wendy Edge, occupational therapist. And I wanted to tell you about my new business where I'm combining the principles of occupational therapy, coaching, and spirituality, and wellness, of course. On the website, you'll see that I'm doing Osho Zen card readings, spiritual coaching, spirit paintings, and so much more. So if you want, check it out, edgecoachingandconsulting.com.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The High Aligned Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
And we're back. Well, Ashley, you seem to have this terminology down, and so how did you learn all this? Can people do this on their own?
They sure can. A lot of YouTube videos. It definitely has been so. A little bit more about me. I do a lot of like, if I'm focused on something, I want to know it from beginning to end. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. So when it comes to branding or business development, like that's literally how I hyper focus myself. And taking it back to my human design, my ego is where I get most of my energy from. And so as long as my ego is getting satiated, I can push myself to do whatever it is I want to do, even if I don't have capacity for it. And it may not be good. And so I have to learn how to moderate that, right?
Right. I
but
gotcha.
but yeah, mostly research on YouTube, listening to other people talk about their own designs, working with other people to like friends and family. My husband, my kids, I looked up all their charts and I was like, oh wow, like this is fascinating. And seeing how we interact and discovering better ways to interact with each other and seeing it work, right? Like those are all different ways to be able to leverage this to your advantage and to learn the most about it.
I love that, by doing the charts of everyone that's living together, right? Which, we know a lot about each other in families, but not exactly how knowing how someone operates, how they're designed, what makes them work best, what makes them feel good, what kind of space they need, right?
Hmm.
It can really help with interactions, I'm sure, whether you're, a family unit or roommates or, you have a partner, it doesn't matter. But knowing about yourself and about the other people who surround you, you can function a lot better, I would think.
Oh my God, it's been transformational. Me and my 13-year-old, we on the same page. Like this year has been the best out of the middle school years.
Wow. Well,
um,
I love that because so many misunderstandings happen because we don't really understand each other. I think just this week, I realized something about my wife, and we've been married a long time. And I said to her, I think okay, so the thing is, when I tell her something that I know she's not going to be happy about, or even sometimes I don't even know she's not going to be happy about it, she like explodes, right? And then 10 minutes later, she's totally fine
yeah, yeah,
and can speak about it rationally. I just figured that out. Like, I used to engage her in that time when she was like raving, upset about it, and we'd end up in an argument.
mm,
So stupid. It took
yeah,
me all these years to just let her go, and then she'll come circle back and we'll have a good rational conversation.
yeah. And I resonate with that. Like we were dealing with that in my relationship too. And then all of a sudden we realize, like, we're like, oh, so you need to, and I can't deal with it. Okay, well, I'll go in the corner. You yell by yourself, and then when we come together, we can talk about it later.
That's us. I can't deal. I'm like I go into freeze, fight, flight, freeze, whatever, right? I That's my go-to
Yeah, yeah,
initially.
yeah,
Um so yeah, we're exactly the same. But human design, it sounds like you could figure it out a lot sooner by
yeah.
just understanding yourself and the other people around you.
Yeah, it's been super helpful.
So, and I love it that it can be a self-driven thing that you can learn by watching the YouTube videos and I imagine just sort of keeping notes and figuring out, how it works.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely doable. But if somebody needs some help, they can definitely come to me about it.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. And we always put the links how you can reach each of us on the podcast and on YouTube. And I love it that you're doing this work. It just sounds amazing. And I don't know how people couldn't want to know more when they look at your posts on social media. Because you're like, I just spoke with a generator. I don't know all the words, but and it's exciting.
Yeah. And you know what else? One last thing before we go. I get to see the people that I attract to. So there are very specific profiles that I actually see repeated often
Hmm.
in my immediate circle. And so that's
Oh,
also a very interesting thing to pay attention to.
I wonder if so people coming to you for healing work. I wonder if you're you're going to get a certain type of people ongoing. it'll
Yeah,
be
that's what I'm curious about too.
it'll be interesting to watch as that unfolds. So definitely check out Human Design. What was the website for that?
myhumandesign.com.
And if you're interested in doing work with Ashley, you
You
want to
can
give you
you can just email me cannabisnursingsolutions@gmail.com.
awesome, great chatting with you about this. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.